You go away. Also want to go over some ways that you might model the years and the months for the stocks that you were going through. How many of you had trouble with that? All right, everyone close your eyes. No one's watching. Close your eyes, Carrie. Close your eyes, Anthony. Close your eyes, Marielle. Close your eyes, Alex. Okay, now that no one's looking, how many of you had trouble with the years and the months in the stocks? Okay, no one's judging all of you. That's okay. I'd like to review it because I think that's a pretty important way of handling some tricky stuff, right? That's the technical term. Way of handling some tricky stuff. Aram, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, I'm feeling low effort today. So the vote is, do you want to do that quick lesson first and then go over that stuff that I mentioned from the project? Optionally, you could leave and go work on the new project, or there's a lab today. Or do you want to go over that project? Do you want to go over that project first and then do a little bit on API keys? So option 1, API keys, then go over. Option 2, go over, then API keys. Ready? Yes. I forgot which one. Okay. Option 1 is we do the short lesson and then we do the review of the project. Option 2 is the reverse. We do the project review and then we do API keys short lesson. Yes, I know everyone's holding up hands, but that's not how democracy works. So everyone close your eyes. Blind ballot. First option, API keys and then review. Please raise your hand. Okay, the second option, review and then API keys. Okay, we're going to do the second option. We're going to review the project and do the really stinky parts, and then we're going to go over API keys. So in this project, you are provided with 2 JSON files. One had a bunch of users in there. The second had a bunch of stocks in there. So I would like us to, we've done this like once or twice before, collaboratively do the repetitive parts such as parsing this JSON, building out our models, blah, blah, blah. And then for the search bar part and for the figuring out your headers and your filtering for the stocks, we could slow it down and do that together as well, but don't expect you to have all the answers. So here's what I've done so far. I've set up my storyboard. In my storyboard is a tab bar view controller. Has anyone ever used a tab bar view controller? Tia?
Yes, I have.
Nice, that's great. And each tab points to a table view controller. Actually, they point to view controllers with table views in them. This one is of type user table view controller, which I set up. Well, maybe. It's got to exist somewhere. There it is. Here's a UI view controller that has 2 outlets, one to a search bar and one to a table view. And it's called users table view controller. Neat. Here's another controller. If I could click into the users, there we are. Nope, if I could click into the stocks, there we go. This one is just has a table view in it. It's a UI view controller that I've called stocks table view controller. That's where we're at right now. Let me see what the heck this is. Just the view controller in my storyboard. Neat. So if,
the table view controller somehow conflict with the search bar?
Yes. That's why I'm actually using a view controller, but great point. What is the conflict there? Let's do it. Let's make this a UI table view controller. Table view. No, but I'd love to go over that thing because I think it's important. It's a really good point. I'm going to recreate this as a table view controller. Come on out. Nice to see you. Here we go. We're embedding this, also known as the root view controller relationship. So with a table view controller, the thing is, if I run it and I put a search bar in the table view, what do you expect to happen, Liana? What's the problem here? Sorry? It will, because the table view is actually a subclass. So if we go look at this UI table view controller, in there is going to be a table view, and a UI table view is a subclass of a UI scroll view. What do you think a UI scroll view is supposed to do? That's right. And so it's going to scroll through, like think about how this actually is working in the space of your phone. It's set up a boundary, a frame, this big old box that's the size of the safe space outside of the tab bar, and it said everything in here just scrolls. That's how I work. And so if we have a UI table view controller, the search bar has to be inside of that scroll view. And that's why we did it slightly different before. So I'm going to get back my friend, Mr. User Table View. We're going to make you just a UI table view. I'm sorry, a UI view controller. Let's run it and see. Maybe it inferred that these are still hooked up. I think so. I'm just going to make sure. Neat. So now when I scroll, my search bar stays where it is. That was like the one tricky thing. Great. So now I have all my views. Honestly, I'm not going to do anything else. So who here has navigated to a detail view controller before? You all have. It's pretty much every project. You must be sick of it by now, right? I agree. All right. So let's do the stuff. So now we literally, in my opinion, do not have to look at our storyboard ever again. Let's focus on the user table view controller. It's going to have a search bar, and it's going to have a user table view. I could have called these the same singular plural setup, but oh well. What is going to go inside of my user's table view controller? What information am I going to put there? What data, Albert? What? I don't have any models. Tell me about the model we should make. Sounds good to me. Let's make a new Swift file called user, and in here we're going to define what a user is. If I want to get the data from this user from some kind of, I don't know, data somewhere, and use some process where you turn data into the stuff that you can use in your app, what do I need to make sure this struct conforms to? Codable. Thank you. And what is like the great thing about codable? What do I not have to do to conform to codable? Why is it nice and easy to just put stuff in code in a codable struct or class? Yes. So my user is codable. I'm going to need properties for this user. What is the nice thing about the codable protocol that makes it easy to just add in new properties kind of on the fly? What do I need to have happen with those properties? How does a struct conform to codable? Alex?
I don't want to say conform with the types that it uses, like string. And
what about those types?
those are the types that codable is able.
Okay. By using types like string and maybe int, and what is actually like also built into those types that's nice for us? Anthony. Yeah. So each of those types, each of those common types we're used to, like strings or ints, those all conform to codable as well. And so for a new struct we're making to conform to codable, All that we need is for each property inside of it to also conform to protocol. So if I had something like a struct that was, I don't know, what do users have? What do people have?
Last name.
Okay, let's call it name. And in there are the properties let first name equal, or let first name be a string, let last name be a string. Name right now doesn't conform to protocol, the protocol codable, but all I have to do right there is say now it does. So literally all I'm saying is the properties in here conform to protocol, the protocol codable. Therefore, if I want this to, it can conform to codable. You do have to say it's conforming to codable. It's not something that the program infers. So we've got codable, this, and then in here, I could have let ID be an int, let name be a name. Each of these properties conforms to codable, and therefore my user is codable. So for our name, let's go have a look-see, beep, beep, beep. And this is all in a branch that I'll push up to the assignment repo. I have a pretty good Git history so far, like pat on my back. Let's look at a user info object. So it looks like there's this big wrapper object that has an array called results that goes like 1,000,000 lines, and then it closes here, and then there's something else called info in that wrapper, and then that one thing closes. It's a lot of info to look at. So what I like to do is if I have an array of stuff, check this out. I just take one object, I move it in here, comment it out. I'm going to delete this after I make my model. What we really should be doing is making tests, but I don't want you all to die of boredom. We're going to go over more about tests on Thursday. Reminders, tips. I know testing has been annoying and kind of hard. Yeah. So let's look at the assignment, which is on my screen. Where are we at? Unit 3, assignment 1. Okay, let's look at the assignment. What do I need to do with these user objects? The context list. I should have a table view and a search bar. The table view should list each contact in alphabetical order. Each table view cell should contain the capitalized name of the contact and their location. The capitalized name of the contact and their location. Feel free to use a default table view cell. So what information am I going to need to populate my table view? Phoenix. Going to need their name and location. Great. What we didn't specify is, are you going to sort by first name? Are you going to sort by last name? Kind of up to you, because no one told you what to do. Damn. All right. So in our individual user model, what I like to do is just get rid of the stuff I don't need. So I don't need email. I don't need login. I don't need date of birth. I don't need registered. I don't need phone. I don't need cell. All this stuff I don't need. So goodbye forever. Here is what I am going to need to model from JSON into my user. So let's look at the structure of this. I have one blob. That'll probably be a user. In that blob is a key called name. And what can be the type of that? Say that louder. Well, let's think about it. Name, is that pointing to a string, an int, another number, or something else? Yeah, we're going to need to make another type called name, because we're going to have to use that. We're going to have to basically model this blob. So this property called name is going to be of type name. I feel like being lazy and creating that in here. Let's see if it works. What? Thank you. That sounds great. Let title be a string. Let first be a string. And let last be a string. Who should I pick on? Levi. If I want to use different constant names here, rather than just exactly what I see as the key in my JSON, how can I do that?
Favorite tool.
Okay,
Call what we want. It was called cookies,
cool.
which would be string and code.
This guy?
Yeah, I made that before. Figure out how to
Interesting. So let's say I want title to stay the same, but I want something called first name here, so that I just know, I know a little more, just in case I get confused. How should I set this up? Title here is a string, so it's literally from this enum going to look for the string title. But in my blob here, the thing I want to be called first name has the key first. Michelle. Case first name. Cool. And Rod, how can I get last name? Neat. Interesting. How do you all feel about that? Great. It loves it. Great. So what we've done so far is we've modeled this. Boom. Sounds good to me. What I want to do is, to make it easier for myself in the future, I'm going to make something called full name. That's a string. It's just going to return, I don't know, something like first name, blah, blah. First name, last name. Neat. That's it. These are stored properties. Title, first name, last name. How dare you? Title, first name, last name. What do we call this full name, though? Adam. Full name. It's not the same as first name, last name, title. It's a different way of using a property. What do you call doing that? Instead of saving a value to it, you say how you can get the value of it. What's that? Okay, pass it to Nima. Hi, Nima. I'm good. So title, first name, last name. Those all get the value stored to that variable. Full name's a little different. What do we call that? Yeah. So I'm looking for a word, one word, how we would describe this full name property. Title, first name, and last name are stored properties, but full name is not, because you don't actually say full name, you couldn't actually assign a value to it. You couldn't say full name equals blah, 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 blah. But instead, you say how you would get the first name property. So this is a getter, but what do we say we want to get and set? What's that whole construct? Sorry. Do you want to pass to Marielle? It is a computed property. You've seen this before. And we're going to use a really important computed property in our search bar. Let's keep going a little faster. I'm going to make these private. Nope, that's not how you spell that. Because I'm never going to use them outside the context of this, any instance of a name. Instead, the only thing that people will have access to is a full name. That's why these are private. Are you all okay with that?
Why is it private?
Because ideally, I would only let someone creating a name use the things that they need in order to use a name. So I'm decoding a first name and a last name from the JSON. I deleted it. But in the future, I only want them to use a full name. That's it. We'll also make this private, I think. I don't know, let's find out. If I build it, will it be okay with it? Yeah, all right, there's a private enum, so no one can ever access the coding keys for a name for a user. Otherwise, I could do something like this. Are you ready? It's really obnoxious. Just like me. User.name.coding keys. I don't want people to be able to see that. I want that just to exist within here. And that's why I made it private. Neat. All right, we've got a name. Looks good so far. What else do we need? Need a location. And here's the thing about our location. If we go look through the JSON, there was some crap about a postcode. I think these are all in Britain. I'm sure are a lot of users. I'm just making sure, because postcodes in Britain, those are strings. But if we're in the States, they might be numbers. So I'm literally just double checking by hitting enter a million times. Really exciting stuff, right? What's that? Say that one more time. I couldn't hear you. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Here's also the thing. I don't need to include the postal code in my location that I decode. So if there was an issue decoding the information on a location object, which we're going to have to create, so a new struct called location, which is also codable, I could just say, let me get the street name, and let me get the city name, and that's it. Do you all know the states in Britain? Me either. So that wouldn't really be helpful information. So what I'm saying here is, boom. For me, that's a location in my app. You are creating the apps. You can do whatever you want with all the keys, so long as you fulfill the requirements. And they said, give a capitalized name of the contact and their location. Well, I've decided location is just street and city. I'm also going to create a variable called, I don't know, yeah, I'm going to make that a computed property. I'm going to just return street, comma, city. Nope. Yep. Yep. Nope. Great. Now we've got our model. Go away. Let's get rid of this. What is this error going to say before I click it? This is a variable like anything else. What does it not know about that variable? It's type. So it needs to know that what I'm returning here is supposed to be a string. Neat. I don't ever want to use city. I don't ever want to use street, making them both private. So no one can look at the location and get a city, but instead they can only get the address. Say that again? Absolutely. I could say, no, it could be anything. Hold on one sec. These structs are structs. So this could just be, excuse me, let nation be Great Britain. You can create these just like any other struct. It's just what we've been used to doing is getting it straight from JSON and using that information. You can change that information up. Tia. Yeah. No, I'll probably make that not private. I think by default, I like to make things private, and then if I need to make it not private, I'll just remove that keyword. Also, I don't feel like making the detail view controller. I do like you all very much, but we don't need to do that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my git status. I'm going to check my git diff. So what does git diff do? Crystal. Shows me all the changes. So I've added a new file called user.swift. Remember, in this very ugly, annoying thing called project.pbxproj, it keeps track of both the files in your project and the organization of them within Xcode. So I'm going to hit space, and it'll scroll. I'll see a bunch of places that have that user.swift. Now I'm in my storyboard. It says something changed. I changed some placeholder. I don't remember doing that, but I guess it happened. Oh, and I also deleted that view controller. All right, so I should probably, before I commit this user stuff, I should probably have a separate commit saying I deleted some extra view controller somewhere. So if I do git add -p, it lets me add through the diff, git add -p. If I hit N, I'm saying no, don't add this. Saying no, don't add this. Don't add that user.swift file. Then I'm in my storyboard. I think I'm going to add this placeholder thing. I'm not sure what it does, but I don't want to mess up my storyboard, which can be kind of finicky. And then I'm also hitting Y to say it removed that view controller. There was just something in my storyboard. I can hit Q now, and that'll get me out of it. If I check my git status, it says Apple stocks and prices was added, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, the storyboard changed. It also says there's a new file called user.swift. If I want to get that out of my staged changes, so things that were added and would be added to any commit, that's the green stuff here, right? I could say git reset and then the name of that file. All right, and now what it says is the only thing that would be committed is the storyboard. I've got changes in my project.pbxproj file, and I have this untracked file called user.swift. I'm going to create a commit just saying removes unwanted view controller in storyboard. And now I'm going to add all the rest of this stuff. When I hit git add dot, if you remember, it doesn't add untracked files. I lied. Anyway, since, like I said, it added that tracked file. Okay. Neat. All right, so that all got added, like I said it would. Let's create a commit message for my user I just created. Carrie, what's a good commit message for basically adding this file and all the stuff in it? Which model specifically? Cool. Adds user model. Sounds good to me. Neat. So at this point, I just want to work with the users. We can get to the stocks later. But what would have been nice is if I set up testing for my user so that I don't have to figure out how to decode it. So what we just did with my looking at a JSON, if you instead created the tests, it would give you exactly what you need, so that when you look back on it, you know how it works. That's the whole point of tests. Unit tests, to be super clear, because I don't think it was, they test your models. They make sure your models work the same way that you anticipate them working. They don't necessarily need to work for you calling that information off the internet. That's called an integration test. That's saying, how have I integrated stuff into my project, as opposed to, do my models work? Those are two different questions. We're not worrying about integration tests right now. Those are pretty important for like big pieces of software, but we are just decoding information and putting it in table views. So we're not worrying about that right now. All right, let's say I want to get this information. I want to create models, user models. Ooh, here's a cool thing I didn't do. I didn't say, let's have a location. Well, that is a type location. Great. So now I've got this change that I probably would want to be in the commit called adds user model. That change is that I added a location to that user model. So what I'm thinking is, I probably have to change that last commit. So I have to add this one line change and add it as part of the last commit. Kevin, how can I do that? Yeah, so I forgot when I was making my last commit that I want a user model to have a location in it. I went through all this work of creating a location, but I never actually said, oh yeah, the user is gonna have a location. That's why I made that location. So this is the only change in all of my files. When I check my git status, that's what's going on. And my last commit, sorry, just a little anal about my spacing. My last commit was called adds user model. This one at the top. How can I add this one line change to that commit, my last commit? Cool. So first I'll add the change, then how do I create an amend? Let's see, git amend. It doesn't like that. It's part of another type of command that you use all the time. It's not git amend, but it's git something amend. Cool. All right. If you don't do anything in here, this is an editor called VI. You'll see that up here. If you're scared of it, if you hit colon, it gets you to a command area down here. If you just type Q, it gets you out of there. If you start typing in there, you will probably have a little more trouble getting out, but that's okay. It's fun to be frustrated. Cool, my user model is all set up. Let's decode that stuff. So, static let, no, static func, get users. We're going to be, I know we did all this stuff on the internet last week. Let's do it back the way we did from JSON before, where, you remember this? Before the horrors of completion handlers, you just created a thing, and then it got the stuff, and then it returned the thing. And now we're never using that again. Do you miss this? Sorry. All right. Eventually, what we're going to want to do is say, let users equal JSON decoder. Create an instance of that. Decoding, aha. We want an array of type users. .self from some data. Interesting. I want to return users. That's my goal later on. But there's a whole bunch of steps in between here. How do I find the file where that JSON is? That JSON is in something called userinfo.json. So let I'm going to look for a file name. Path. Okay. And what do I put in these two arguments? JSON. Cool. Thank you. So I've got a file name here. Let's see what file name is. Ah, it's an optional. All right, let's go back to the old way. Before we had that wonderful enum of app errors. I guard that this exists. Otherwise, Sam, what do you like to do when it doesn't exist? What's your favorite thing to do? Yeah, let's crash it. Fatal error. All right, app will crash if I can't find that file. Great. So now we're living in a world where if the app didn't crash, I found the file. What do I do next? Kimball. I've got a file name. I want to get the stuff in that file. Okay. Jason, what do you think? So I've got a file name looking for this JSON file. Now I want to get the stuff that's actually in there. Can you say that louder? Sorry. Cool. So that file URL, how do I get a value for that? String. Great. And that string is file name. Great. We're going to go with the SAM approach here. This returns another optional, an optional file URL. So I'm going to say, if this doesn't work, kill the app. Damn, it's getting scary. All right. Now, I want to turn this URL into some data that I can use in my decoder. Albert, how can I do that? No. I want to turn this URL into some data that I can eventually decode to get my users. Okay. Give it a shot. See you do that. What am I going to do in here? Here's the thing, I don't have any data yet. This function takes something of type data, but I've only got a URL. So I probably got to do something first. I know I'm going to try that. I think I have to do something first. Let's see if we can make something called data. See if there's an initializer from a URL. Look at all these attributes. That sounds terrible. Let's look from the top to the bottom. Contents of URL. What's the URL called, Albert? I agree. All right. Let's see. Can I build this? Nope. Why not? Oh, I shouldn't have showed you. This initializer throws an error. So I need to mark it with a try. Neat. Now I can use data in there. Let's go look at our JSON. Make sure that I'm decoding the right thing. Sonny, what do you think? I say, I don't know how to talk. I'm saying that I am decoding an array of users. Does that match the format of my JSON file? Tell me about my JSON file. Cool. So the array of users that I want to use is actually just a value for a key called results in one big old JSON blob. So hurts me to do this, but I'll probably make a struct with a lowercase struct called user wrapper that's codable, that has in it results, which is an array of users. Great. Now if I have a user wrapper, I can decode that thing. Here's the thing. I put this get users inside of my user struct and rather than my user wrapper because in the end, I do want it to return an array of users. That wrapper is me just creating something convenient for me to be able to deal with the JSON. That's its job. And then also, right here, when I decode that user wrapper, I don't have to return that thing. I don't, I promise. I could call this user wrapper, and I could return user wrapper dot results, because those dot results are an array of users. Neat. Now I'm no longer going to return users from there. And then, Sam, if it doesn't work out, what should I do? I'm going to crash the app. Great. All right. So now I want to set up my view controller. But first, Hildy. Yeah. So I created this user wrapper thing because I went through the whole process of creating this user object, which is going to have a name, a location, and I said what goes into those names and location. But then I noticed when I was going to actually decode the JSON file I have, I looked inside of it and I saw, yeah, eventually I'm going to want an array of stuff, and all those things, all that stuff are going to be of that type user that I created. But because of the actual format of the JSON, which is just one thing, which inside of it has a key called results, which is that array of users that we went through all that outlining for, I actually need to model that with my model. So usually we just call like some model or struct or whatever that we're creating that we're not actually going to make use of in our code. Like this is literally me just saying, all right, I want to get results, but I can't just directly say, give me results. I have to say, there is some object that has a key called results, and inside of results are all the users I want to use. I do have to model that object. So I do have to say, like, basically, there is a blob that has in it results, and those results are going to be of the type user that I created. And so that wrapper, all it's for is to say, there's one item, one blob, that has a property results, which has that array of users. And so wrapper is literally just like saying, there is some format that this exists in. I don't really care about that whole object. I want some stuff in it, but I know that I have to model the way that the JSON is formatted. And so in here, I decode a user wrapper, but I don't return that. I return the stuff I was looking for, which is that results. All right. Levi.
I have a question about your second guard, Steve.
My second guard.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
But it is strictly necessary.
Is it strictly necessary?
This is the first one to be guarded against that path.
Mhm.
This means that the path that they exists. So it didn't say it just use it.
Potentially, but not all strings can be converted into URLs. And so potentially, it might have found something that's like sharded like this, or it might have just found that value. I think like a good practice is if something is optional, guard against it potentially failing and having a nil value. Theoretically, yeah, just like with our apps that have, when we do a data task, we get data, a URL response, and an error. Theoretically, if there's no error, we should have data, but we can't ever be sure if it's optional. So we want to just be like cautious. All right. So now we have a way to get users. What should I do with it, Allison? Yeah, I'm gonna commit. So let's check my get stat, status, get diff. Oh, I added a wrapper. I added a way to get users from my URL. Great. I'm gonna add that all. I'm gonna add a commit that says adds JSON decoder for users file. Something like that. I have a branch. It's on GitHub. It's in the assignment repo. I'm going to push to that branch if you want to see it. Damn. I guess I have to create an original push. Neat. So if you want to see it on the internet, it's in that branch. Cool. Let's take a 6-minute break, 7-minute break. Yeah. It's on GitHub. That guy. That guy? Users. Great. Feeling lazy. Thank you. Yes. No, because I made this a view controller, not a table view controller.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Interesting. Oh no. Uh-oh. 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 Mm. Whoa. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Oh no. If only I had set up testing, I would have found out that my decoder is not working. Let's see if we can figure it out. It looks like my get users, trying to find something called userinfo.json. That makes sense. And it found something called that. But when I go to turn it into a URL, something's going on. Interesting. And now, when I go into this do block, It's not able to convert this stuff going on here. Interesting. Let's see if it ever even makes it to that point. All right, my app hasn't crashed yet. Now, print out data. Nope. It couldn't find anything. Interesting. It couldn't get any data from that file, even though I know the URL. Interesting. Anyone have any ideas why that's happening? Yeah, so I get a file name, I get a file URL, and then I try to get some data from that file URL. But you can't do that. What? Who? Rod. Where? Oh, let's see. Going. Still crashes. I'm sad. Let's run it again. Isn't debugging fun? Let's print out this file URL. Oh, doesn't exist yet. Let's print out the name. It found a file called userinfo.json. All right, let's go to the next spot. I was trying to find some data. But that thing doesn't exist yet. Now, if I go to the next step, it never tries to decode that data, otherwise it would have gone to that line. Let's look at the errors. I printed out the error. The file userinfo.json couldn't be opened. Ah, I see something else. Doing this thing, which I have no clue what it does, but I assume it's related to a URL, failed because it was passed an URL, interesting, not a URL, an URL which has no scheme. It was passed a URL which has no scheme. I don't know. Let's find out what that means. That's not what I'm looking for. It does throw. You talking about this guy though?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to just look at this error real quick and see what people have to say. Interesting. For me, this problem was fixed by adding file. Whoa. Let me try this and then see if throw works. File, user info. Oh no, it didn't even work that way. Dang. Well, what did we find out about that solution? It was a bad one. Great. All right. Let's just see. User info. That's a JSON, called JSON. That's great. We've got a user info thing in here. Got something called results up here. We've got an array of stuff. Let's see. I'm going to just check something. The JSON validator. Making sure that my JSON is of a valid format. I don't want to pay, just validate. It's a valid JSON. All right, that's not the issue. Let's keep looking. Yep. Looks like the JSON isn't the problem, but it's finding that file. Damn. Is it because it's in a folder? It's okay. The dot isn't affecting it. Promise. It's in a folder called JSON. Interesting. Let's see now. If I change the name of that, like if the name matches. All right, let's see. All right, nothing crashed yet. Nothing crashed yet. Something crashed. Oh no, what's going on? All right, let's see if we move this out here. Yeah, all the way up. This guy. So I think what's happening is we're not getting this data because it's never even hitting this line of code. Otherwise, we would see a breakpoint, which is really a shame. What do you guys want to do? How can we fix this? I'm getting scared. It's not working. Any ideas, Ayla? Ever run into an error like this? What? Well, this is the error, but that just meant that something in here is throwing an error, which is a shame. You know what I might do is, I'm doing a bunch of stuff in here. Might say var data is just some data. Then I might create two different things here. So I might try that and say set the value of data. Then I might try to find out more and say separately return this user wrapper. Got two different blocks because before this error was throwing, but we didn't quite know which issue it had run into. So let's see which fatal error gets triggered here. All right, getting rid of that. Our URL works. Getting rid of that. Our data works. It goes in this do block. It's on this line. And it crashes when I'm trying to get data. Tell me more. Okay. That? I'll comment it out. Now what? Can you say it louder? Sorry. And the var data. Okay. All my work. Now? Yeah. This guy? Okay. So it needs something. This guy? Okay. So where's the data going to come from? But I need an object called data, of type data, to decode it. Parameter and of type data. Something like that? From data? Interesting. Like this?
No, it's not
What?
Excuse me.
What parens?
Listen. Go back up.
Here.
Stop moving.
But where am I going? Here?
Okay.
No, one more, a little bit. Yeah,
Down
right,
here?
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Okay. Parens. These are parentheses. From
space data
data.
data.
It's of type data. Okay.
Because you're not passing it in anything, so it's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, but I still need data from somewhere. Where am I going to get that? Okay. That's kind of hurting me, though. It's not very MVC. But let's try it. Sorry, who am I to say? I know. And what I taught you wasn't MVC, was it? Let's try it out, though. All right, where am I going to get that data from? Did you want to do it in here? Is that what you're saying? All right. All right. What? The way I was doing it was correct?
No. What you're doing right now is what
Okay. So let's create some data here. Where does that data exist? Oh, let me go get that crap back then. All right. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Now what?
So let data equal try.
Let me give me my thing. This is really annoying. Nice. Wow, URL. Okay. Do this guy. And then catch. Let's see. Fatal error. All right, is it going to break? All right. I sure hope it works. Damn, it crashed. Tell me more. Where? Throwing the return? Let's see. Like that? Okay. Oh no, there's an error. What does that error say? Call can try. Ooh, try that. Damn. All right, I've got some thoughts. Do you want me to tell you them? Okay. This guy? I did. Where? Throw this? Yeah. Like so. No, I don't think so. You just need to try it. So it's going to create it's going to give you the ability to catch what you do. I'm going to tell you the error. The error is coming from getting data from that file. Yeah.
And assigning it to the instance of users, right?
Say that again?
Like, do you have your data and users?
Yeah. This step is not working. Isn't debugging fun? It's really fun. What else can we do to figure it out? Tia.
Where do you have it on? Where is it declaring that the URL file URL?
This guy?
Does it file name or does it, oh, okay, you're talking about
Let's see, maybe if I rename this, is that going to help? What do y'all think? User info. Sure hope it works. Dang, didn't work. Hold on, one at a time. Okay. I think this is fine. And I go to my JSON file. Let's do that. So I've got one big brace. That's why I use the JSON validator. I want to see, does it work? Okay. Let's print that error again. Here's the super important thing. Print that error. So this is going to give me something called error. We've tried a whole bunch of things, but there's been one specific problem. This is debugging. The file userinfo.json couldn't be opened. Interesting. So it found my file. It created a URL, and it said that file couldn't be opened. Errors are your friends. Let's go find out why this might have happened. Tia, do you have any guesses why the file couldn't be opened? It is, I moved it around a bunch of times, but it's located in the same level of my directories. What?
Yeah, you're talking about
That's okay.
Isn't there a
Folder
folder called supporting files?
called supporting files? Sure, we can move it back in there. Try it again. I also moved another JSON file called Apple stock info into there. How did you all make it work? Differently. Is there a problem with my keys? Failed because it was passed a URL which has no scheme. Why is that? Should they be get variables? Let's see. No. Yeah. Okay. This is the error. For all the things we've flailed around about, this is the error. Yes. Is it related to this error? It found the file. It created a URL out of it. Otherwise, it would have created a fatal error. So the specific problem is the file couldn't be opened. We don't know anything about that. What should we do to find out more about that? We could go Google it. Because do you understand how any of this stuff works? This NS-COCO error domain, this CF URL copy resource property for key. I wish I knew, but I don't. Is the name case sensitive? I don't think so, but we could try. But I want you all to look back to the structure of our code. I know, right? This is debugging. This is what, like, let's say a good 45% of coding is. If this file could not be found, if it couldn't find something with this name, it would have triggered a fatal error already. If it couldn't turn it into a URL, it would have triggered a fatal error already. The fatal error we are getting here is because it could not open that file, which is a different error. So these guard statements are really helpful because we know if it got past that line of code, then it would have, because we didn't get an error at that line of code, those things worked out. That's why we are unwrapping these values using a guard statement. Allison. They matched until I just changed it, but I'll tell you that's not the problem. Because again, it found the file. It's not a mismatch of names. It's that the file couldn't be opened. Let's find out about what that error code is. That's our problem here. It's one specific thing. Let's find out why it happened. Oh no, there are all these ugly looking things. Oh, interesting. Oh no. Ew, this is an Objective-C? I want to read this file? Oh, that looks like what we've gotten. Please help, thanks. The URL must use file URL with path string. Okay, let's see if we're doing that. Oh, we were using the wrong initializer.
Thanks, David.
Oh, damn. So we just spent 25 minutes doing that. And the problem ended up that we were using the wrong initializer. Here's the thing. That's going to happen all the time. I'm sure it's happened all the time. What was really helpful was we read the errors. We tried a whole bunch of things, but if you just read the errors, they want to give you more information. Your apps break in a specific way. Also, I was going to cut you off in like 3 minutes. We Pomodoro'd that. Okay, let's make it run. Hopefully it works. I'd be pretty upset if it didn't. Oh my God, it worked. Cool, let's do the table view stuff really quick. So if I load my users, let's make sure this actually gets called. All right, load users gets called. Now it goes and loads my table view. Okay, great. My users, when they're set, they reload the data, but nothing's showing up. Why? Ian. All right, let me tell you, I've got a table view. I want to get users into it. I load those users, and I set up those data source functions. I say, put in as many rows as there are users, and DQ a cell just the subtitle cell that I created that puts in the information for each of those text labels and then returns the cell. So I've set up the data source functions, and I've got a table view. And tell me more about that. Interesting. Great. Now I should see something, I hope. I should remove that. Done with you. Yay, we did it. We can all go home, right? Raw. Okay, let's keep going. The goal of this is that we wanted to have a search bar. I created a search bar. I created an outlet to it. I'm going to make this user table view controller conform to the protocol UI search bar delegate. This search bar delegate allows us to respond to any search bar that has as its delegate this user table view controller. So the first thing I want to do is just like with that data source for the table view, I want to say user search bar has as its delegate the instance of table view that it exists in. Now, does anyone know the specific function that responds as we type in a search bar that's built into a UI search bar delegate? It's available to us. Sunny, give it a shot. Text, did, change. Neat. So this is saying for any search bar that has as its delegate an instance of a user's table view controller, anytime something is typed, I think the best way I could do it is just print out what's going on here, just to make sure it works. Can you say that louder? Sorry. Yeah, let's just test this. J. Great, okay. Text did change. Let's commit this so you can all have it if you want it. Here's the thing. I did a whole bunch of crap. I did a whole bunch of things. One thing I did was, in my effort to make that stuff work, I changed some file names. I changed the folder name. So let's backtrack on that. Great, now I don't have to commit that. Let's see what happened in my storyboard. I added a prototype cell. Whoa. It's got all this stuff in it. Interesting. Let's check the rest of my div. There's my cell. This is in my user. Ah, that's right. I changed up my getUsers function to be a getUsers from data. I should probably commit that separately. So I don't want to add my prototypes yet. I just changed up how this function works to capitalize first and last name. I should get rid of my print statement. Let's do that. You see how long coding takes? Git add -p, no prototypes. Yes, get users from data. know anything in this view controller. And you know what might even be smarter is now that I'm looking through things, I do think a view controller shouldn't have to know about files, but instead should be able to just try to get users. I'm going to move all that stuff back into my model. I know, it rules. All right, let's do that stuff back in here. Got my user info file, which I changed the name back of. Try to get data. Do that stuff. I try to return results. Let's run it to make sure it works. And I didn't just sloppily paste some code in. So much is happening all the time. Are we having fun? Who was super frustrated by that debugging? Show of hands. Who learned something from that debugging? What did you learn, Carrie? It takes a long time. What did you learn, Michelle? Oh, say that louder.
To read the errors I get.
What?
To read the errors that I get.
Can you say it 3 more times? Read the errors. Read the errors. Don't guess at what is wrong.
The errors are your friends.
The errors are your friends. Get users. Okay, now I got to change how that users things work. Users things work. Good English. Get users. Now, all it does is it gets the users for me. My view controller doesn't need to know about it. Let's keep going. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh no. It's marked with a try. Well, here's the thing. I'm no longer going to have this throw any errors because if it doesn't work, it just crashes the app. Thanks, Sam. I would need to try it if I wanted to be able to test it and do something in my view controller, such as catching that error and saying, sorry, couldn't load any data. Apps are pretty complex, huh? Cool, everything loaded. So now, I want to add all that stuff I just moved in there. No, nothing to do with prototypes. Yes, something to do with my user. No, nothing to do with the view controller. Git commit. What do? We fix it. Fix it. Good. We fixed data. We fixed JSON decoder for user. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Git status. All right. Now, I'm going to add that prototype cell. Great. Git commit. Adds prototype cell for user VC. Great. Now I'm going to git add. All this stuff is in my view controller. Should we be lazy?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Git commit. Adds table view, data source, and search bar delegate to user table view PVC. All right, I have pushed all that stuff up. Yes. Is there a time where we would ever have the JSON file? Sometimes yes. Sometimes for like various settings of an app, you will actually create the app with a file. It might not even be JSON. It might be like a TXT file for certain like things you don't want to get remotely. For example, you might have like a list of, we'll probably talk about this in a few weeks, but you know how you can save a username to a keychain? You might have a list of, similar to coding keys in a model. You might save in a JSON file a list of names for like those keys to save. So if you sometimes store a password in an app, those get saved somewhere in the device that you need the app to be able to locate that information without needing to go and make a remote call. Yeah. So those are more like particular things rather than some big conceptual thing. Our app works. We did it. Everyone go home. Let's make the search bar work. Ready? What's the pattern we've used in the past? We are getting information from our view. We want the controller to keep that information. So what should I do in this search bar delegate to provide information to the controller that it can then filter information in the model to get it back and provide to the view? That's going to be the path with our search bar. Always works like this. So, here is the search bar. Here's the controller. Here's the model. The search bar provides some text to the controller. The controller uses that text to, it says, here's the search. The model returns information that's filtered for that text, and then the controller updates our table view. That's how we're going to do it. It's how we have done it. So for that first step, getting information from the view to the controller. Give it a shot, Rod. Okay, I want to get information from the view to the controller. I'm going to tell you that information from the view is held in search text, but I don't want to directly be using search text within my controller. Yep. So this function gets called whenever the text in our search bar changes, and it actually provides to us what that text is. But the thing about using that MVC setup is I don't want to actually use that text. I don't want to skip the step of providing that text to my controller to update my model. So I don't want to just say, oh, I got some text, and let's say model dot do the filter stuff for that search text. I don't want to do that. Instead, I want my controller to be where that information is passed through. In this function, this function's job is going to be just to provide some information to the controller. It's going to be one line of code. What we probably want to do is we probably want to have a variable here, so on the controller, called searched text, for example, which is initially going to be empty, and which we'll do some stuff with. All this function is going to do is update searched text with the actual text in the view. So the text in the search bar is going to update some value in this view control. Adam. Okay.
Why would you always
So I'm not sure which specific function you're talking about. The reason I'm using this one is because it is a function that I get from search bar delegate. So I want the activity in the view to actually specifically relate to the view that I'm using, which is the search bar. And the descriptive part of this is the text did change. Like this function lays out exactly what's going on. It's saying the text did change in a search bar. And so like maybe show me that later. But the reason I'm using this one is like it's pretty descriptive for what's actually going on in the view. So that search text, we now have it saved on the controller. What I'm going to say is just like with users, whenever someone searches something, it changes. I'm sorry. What is it? The table view. So whenever someone starts typing something, it's going to reload the table view. And now all we need to figure out is how we are going to filter the model to make it change that table view. Cool. So in the past, we've done something like using a set of users and never changing that. I want you to keep that. I know that doesn't make any sense, so let's do it like this. Filtered users, which is an array of users. Instead of setting a value for this, I'm going to make it a computed property. And for right now, before we do any filtering, I'm just going to return users. And so my goal here is, even though this users is not static, the only time it changes is when I load users, right in this private function. So it has one specific specific responsibility, and that is to hold information that gets loaded. So if you remember in the past, we used to set up static functions before we knew how to decode stuff from JSON that just included all the models we wanted, and we would save that somewhere. That thing had one responsibility. So does this users. The value within it is only going to be either an empty array of users until we load our users, or whatever users get loaded by this load users. Should I explain that again? Okay. So our goal here is to filter stuff in the table view. Users, in the past, we have gotten that stuff. Think back to Unit 2. We just had a list of users, probably in the model for users, rather than us getting it from the internet or getting it from a local JSON file. We knew exactly what all those things were. So we probably had something like a constant called users that was just equal to the value of that get users, which had that list of users. And then the way we would filter it is we'd have a computed property looking at that thing called users. We are doing the same thing, but it's just a tiny bit more complicated now. Whereas before we had that entire list of users, now we have to load those users. So there's a function here that's going and doing that decoding of that JSON. Once we decode that JSON, we don't want users to change. So when we're filtering, we don't want to be changing this value. And so this was a constant in the past. The reason it's a variable now is because the value does have to be changed when we call load users. Load users is the thing that might pass or it might fail. But it serves one purpose, and that's the reference for a user. So now our apps are working in real time. Because when I load my view, it might take longer than expected for me to get that information. And so it might need to be updated. And so this thing while it's not a constant, we're never going to use directly. Instead, we're going to use a computed property that refers to it. And we've done searches like this before. So let's map out what that search is. First thing I did is I made sure that searched text, nope, is not equal to an empty string, else what value do I provide for the stuff that I'm going to use in my table view? So if the search string is not an empty string, we're going to proceed. But if it is an empty string, Sunny, what should I provide? Yes. So I'm going to just give back all the users, because no one's searching for anything, so they should see everything. What can we do next? Phoenix. Yeah, so I was feeling lazy today. I set up search text as a string rather than an optional string, and that's just literally because I feel lazy. But so it's not going to be nil. Do you want to just start filtering? Allison, let's filter. Okay. We're going to return users dot, users dot filter. So for any user, let's make sure that the user's name, full name, then let's go look at what's going on here. Full name is capitalized, but search terms might not be capitalized. We've got two options here. Either capitalize my search term or make my model not capitalized. I would say, for our purposes, the model shouldn't be capitalized. The view works in a specific way, and the controller's job is to handle that. And so I made it capitalized in my model because I thought when I'm updating these labels, I want it to be capitalized. But that data is going to be used in other ways. So instead, I should have my controller changing the information here for my full name. Come on. Ugh, indeed. Capitalized. No, you're being a real pain in the butt. I've got an error somewhere. My computer is going really slowly. Shut up. Return true for now. Go away. Okay. U dot capitalized. Whatever. It works, I promise. Okay. So here, this closure gives us a user, and it wants back a Boolean. I've got the full name of the user. I'm just going to be super safe and say lowercase. Just making sure, just in case that model information is weird. I'm going to use dot contains. We're going to provide it searched text. And this whole thing, checking a user's name, dot full name, dot lowercase, dot contains, returns a bool. Neat. That's it. That's the whole search. Phoenix. Ooh, interesting. What's your suggestion? Ooh, interesting. Nice. That makes sense to me. That's just saying the only thing being provided here, you could also use trailer enclosure syntax. Let's build this and make sure it works. Nice. All right.
With your code search vector, you use a small case or
That's probably a good idea. Just to make sure. Let's run it. Oh. All right, let's get searching. Ian. Ah, man. It's not filtering. This is the last step. Why is it not filtering? I'm not using filtered users. And she walks off and drops the mic. So I need to make sure that I'm using the right information now in my table view. Damn. I wanted you all to guess longer. Michelle. Nice. Who else? B. Let's go through it again. Michelle. Marielle. No Marielle's. Alex. Are you an Alexander? Anthony. Carrie. Rod. Do you want to be Bradley? Kevin. Jocelyn. Okay, let's take a break. Yes. We're going to go over how to separate it into months and dates, months and years, and then the math will be easy for you to do. Then it'll just be like, look at an array and take the average. Yeah. We're going to work on the model for that. Yes. Rod. I'm going to commit it and push it out. Okay. Come back at 12:02. 12:02. Yes. Say louder. I can't hear you at all.
maybe for this one, you get the option. So I'm getting this error. Where it is, right? So if I switch for it, I can't get it. Remember you did a button that like closes it.
Oh, you have to resign first responder.
That's in the column. It's in the column.
Yeah. So when you're like searching in here, that's called being the first responder. You want to set up an action somewhere else that resigns the first responder, so it'll like close the keyboard.
It's like another function, right? Resign.
It's something in the search bar delegate that you can call that in.
Resign.
Yeah. Hmm? Oh boy. All right. Oh boy. Switch file. Stop. Struct. Stop. Equalizer. Oh. It will do stock price. Table view should contain the date and the opening stock price.
So the computer property that you made for the search bar, is that best if it's put in a model or keep it in the view controller?
That's a good question. Let's think about it.
This makes me want to vomit.
What?
Like staring at it this close?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm dizzy every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy?
Yeah.
You could do that,
Yeah.
where call that. Yeah, you could do that. I would typically.
But that's the only part you could take out of there.
Yeah, because otherwise you're dealing with stuff specifically only in this controller.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is making sure a view works the right way,
Mm-hmm.
whereas this is interacting with the model.
Yeah.
I think the reason I would prefer to do it here is that this is actually on an array of users.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was something you're doing with one instance of that struct,
Yeah.
you could make it, you could just call it like user dot, but on users dot, you would have to, you couldn't do users dot, so instead you'd have to do something
Yeah,
like
because I was trying to do
static
like users dot.
users, and then there you'd have to send actually an array
Yeah.
of users, which is fine, but a little like jankier, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was having trouble
Static function,
trying to get the JSON file in the model. And then the, where you took the bundle.main path, that's in my controller.
I would do
So
that.
that's why, yeah, that's why I was having trouble. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. What? I can't hear you at all. What? Oh. Thanks, Sam. Yeah. Show what? Shows. Well, you're gonna have to make the call, so it would start as empty, and then it would show like a progress indicator, an activity indicator, until it loads. When you load it, the hope is your internet is fast enough to get it, but in the chance that it's not, you would show an empty table view with an activity indicator. I think so. Let's talk about it later. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's make another thing. We've got stocks. Let's zoom through this. So, we made this thing. Let's cheat. We got our users. Let's steal that whole function and just change up how we get stocks. All right. Instead of get users, get stocks, which returns an array of stock. Let file name be Apple stock info. Apple stock info. Great, it's a JSON. We're using this specific initializer for our URL. Cool. What type? Let's look at that JSON file. What are we going to decode? Jack. Sure, but what's the outermost structure of this thing? Sure, I'm just setting up my decoder function right now. What am I decoding? Mm-hmm. Nope. We're just doing some investigation. Basically, my question is, are we going to need a wrapper or are we going to decode something else? Okay, what are we going to decode? One blob or many blobs? We're going to decode a bunch of blobs. We're going to get an array of stocks, like that. We're going to call it stocks. We're going to return stocks. That's our whole decoder. That gets us the stocks. Now let's figure out what we need in that stocks. Good. Great. Your table view should contain. Ooh. I guess it's not wrapping for us. Should list each stock price in order from oldest to newest. Each table view cell should contain the date and the opening stock price. Each table view cell should contain the date and the opening stock price. Feel free to use a default table view cell. Table view should also have sections. Ooh. Every month and year should have its own section. The title for the section should display the month and year as well as the average for all stocks opening price that month. Neat. Let's figure out what that looks like. Okay. The table view should list each stock price in order from oldest to newest. But the table view should also have sections. Every month and year should have its own section. So how's that going to work? Here's our table view. Each table view cell should contain the opening stock price and the date. All right, so in a given cell, there's, let's say, the date is the subtitle, and the price at opening is the title. Great. Now we got to figure out how that table view itself is going to work. Because it's going to have sections. That's what they said. Each month and year should have its own section. The title for the section should display the month and year as well as the average for all stock prices that month. So the section header, let's say on the left side, it's got month and year, and then colon, and then the average. How would we get the average price for a month? Average of the opening price of that month. Yeah. Yes. Being lazy is not how you write it in Swift. We'll get that. It's the average. It's the sum of all the things in that month and year divided by the number of things in that month and going to be our format. The last thing is going to be, how is this table view going to sort the information within itself? Oldest and newest. And within each section, how is it going to be sorted? Within each section, it's also going to be oldest and newest. You just want a timeline of stocks. That's what this is. Start at some point in the past, go as soon as we can, to as recent of a date as we can. That's what we're going to do. Here's the thing, if we set up our model right, we don't have to do that much stuff in our controller to make that work out. What info do we need in our model? Let's add it in here as comments. We need the opening price. We need the date. Do we need anything else? What do we need the closing price for? Sorry, one at a time. The opening and the closing. So in the detail, we're going to need closing. Do we need it for our table view? Cool. We only need, and all I'm going to work on is the information that we need for that table view. Because they're going to do us a favor, and the detail view looks really easy. So who cares? Why is that worth your time with me? Okay. So let's look at our JSON. Opening price. Here's one blob. Let's pull that into our file again. Stock. All right. Let's kill off the stuff we don't need. I don't care about the high or the low. I don't care about the volume. I don't care about this high or low. I don't know about this change label, change over time. All right, I've got 5 values here. I want 3. Let's say date is a string. Great. Neat. That seems to be right. Now, how do I get opening and closing prices here? Can anyone tell me about this data? Any opinions, any thoughts? Has anyone ever invested in stuff and knows about the difference between these things? Ayla. Which one of these is, these both say close and open, but I don't know which one to use. So to talk about one day I use these? Okay. What do these do? Cool. Unadjusted numbers. Thank you, Levi. What are unadjusted numbers? Okay. Oh, interesting. Do I want to use that information anywhere in my app? No. Cool. Hey, you guys are working on these things as an educational tool, right? You can definitely get clarification on what things are. You can also say, screw it, I'm using this, and then explain yourself later. Who wants to waste time on that? You want to waste more time? No, I don't. Great. Opening is a double. Closing is, I don't know, double. Great. Yay. We did it. That's our whole model. Delightful. Oh, thank you. Let's go look at the keys. Open and close. I'm stubborn, Sam. How can I make it so I can use opening and closing? Coding. Call it that. Do it that way. Neat. Do this stuff. Let's say opening gets its value from the string. What, Sam? Neat. Closing gets its value from the key. What, Sam? Neat. All right. Well, I hope this works. Who's to say, though? Oh, no. Type stock does not conform to protocol decodable. Oh, no. Oh, no. So it's only got 3 properties. What? Oh, thank you. I can't just do the ones I want. I gotta have my own thing. Damn. Thanks so much. Let's see if it builds now. Neat. All right. Let's check my Git status. As we are rolling. It looks like everything has to do with my stock stuff. So I'm just going to add it all together. Wow. Running out of words. Let's see if we can get this done in 45 minutes so I don't pass out. What is a good message? Adds stock model and decoder. Neat. We did it. All right. Here's the thing about stocks. That date. We got to figure out how to use that date. Here's the format of that date. Why? Why? DD. I don't know if those are capital or lowercase. I forget how they work. But that's the string we're going to be looking at. How can I get each of those values more easily? What's a way I could manipulate my string to get the year, and then the month, and then the date? Tell me more. Got what? Awesome. Do you know a function that works on a string that does that? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start calling this first get, I don't know, date stuff. We'll refine it as we go on. So for any instance of a stock, we're going to say, I guess the date stuff is going to be, well, let's see how if we use date.components separated by a dash. Let's see the return of this. Go and have a look. It says it returns an array of strings. All right, so this could return an array of strings. But what do we want this to do? Or a better question is, every time we do this, I'm getting rid of that return. I'm over it. Every single time we use this, if the data is right, how many things will be in this we'll call it separated string? 3 values. Okay. So, separated string at the first value is what? Neat. Separated string at the second value is what? The month. And lastly, separated string at the second value is what? The day. Neat. You guys ready? All right. Let's make variables for those. It's almost like these computed properties are kind of like a function. Interesting, huh? Now we need a month. I don't know how things work. Thank you. All right, how do I get the day? Date.components separated by that. That's now an array. I'm looking at the second index. Every time, that's how it's going to work. And then every time, the month is going to be at the index 1. And then the day is going to be, I'm sorry, I'm losing track of my brain. The year is going to be at index 0. These are all computed properties. That's how they work. I'm going to make date private so that no one can use it. And they'll only have access to day, month, and year. And I'm going to get rid of this whole function. Who cares? Bye-bye. Great. Now, if I ever need the day, the month, or the year, I can do that. I'm probably going to need the day, the month, and the year. What do y'all think? All right. Well, here's the thing. We've got stocks. That's great. I think what I want to do is when I get stocks, I want them to be sorted so that my table view can use them. And instead of having just stock. I don't know. I feel like we didn't matrices before. It's probably easier to model a matrix rather than an array of arrays in like a group, and a bigger group that holds that group, a bigger group that holds that group. Kinda maybe. What I want to do is I want to use month and year to create objects. And then I want that to hold in it some stocks. So that to set up my sections, all I have to do is compare month and year. And then to set up the things in those sections, all I have to do is look at the stocks inside of month. What do you all think of that? All right. Takes 6 minutes to brainstorm. I have to run to the back. All right, so you all solved it. Let's take lunch. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Fine. Albert. Iram, what do you have in mind? No, you've still got 3 minutes. Keep thinking. Wow. We want to figure out each of these has a date. And we figured out the format of those dates. We said actually for each of them there's going to be a day, a month, and a year. Now, how can we model those things in such a way that we can make it much easier to insert that information into a table view? Also, did anyone find an unlabeled charger last week? Computer charger? Not Ian's broken one? Okay, let me know if you come across it, please. Okay. Does someone want to whiteboard some ideas? How would you model the stops? Let's do it on the sideboard. Kimball, come on up. Kimball, hand. Tell us about what you're thinking.
So we're really concerned about
So if you show us 2 instances of a stop, and show us how you would order them so we can use them in our table. Okay, so that's one. Say you had another Microsoft. Say it's for the next day. Yeah. Here's the big, how many hours did everyone spend trying to figure out this? Yes. You spent more than an hour figuring out this information. It's a fair rate for it. It is sort of a great source for why it's interesting. When did you notice that? Or you can just sort by the just comparing other take a look. Come on. We've got July 8th, August 2017 on the 30th. Wow, I know how to read. All right, looks like it's sorting oldest to newest. How do we want it to sort? Neat, so it's already pre-sorted. Jack, what would you say, like, what would you call, I'd say that's a particular developer skill that you just exhibited. What would you call it? Yeah. Yeah. So say we looked through all this data and we saw, oh, it's just sorted by date. You don't have to do any of this shit. But say it was mixed up. Sorry. I know you were really excited. And the last one is actually at the end. I know, I'm sorry. So I'd say super important, thank you, Jack, is common sense or like finding the laziest approach. I think lazy is a good thing. I'm not even trying to describe you. But say we didn't know the order of the information. That's what we want to figure out here. We want this to work for any data set. Modeling that data set is important. How will you figure out? Let me show you what you do. For any stock, another stock, I want to figure out how to put the date ordinance together. So, how I can put it in an array based on this data. What I need to do is I need to figure out how to determine whether that is true or false. Does anyone know any protocol that lets us do that? Comparable? So incomparable, there's a static function that previous all that. You are outlining really how you should compare stuff. Another stuff. In this comparable, would you say the smaller number is less than or the bigger number? So here, we're going to compare the years. We're going to say, check the year C is less than cool. What about if the year, the second one, equals to it would be different, right? Now, the only way that we can get that is if we're the same. So here's the thing. This is always going to evaluate. It's going to come out true if it's less than. It's going to come out false if it's greater than or equal to. If it's not less than, so it's either equal to or greater than. Now we're going to get to this one. This one. All right. If it's false, it's going to get well, again, it's false. That means it's greater than or equal to. What do you want to do? You want to handle those two together or separately? Cool. Which one could we do first? Okay. Yeah. That guy. If they're equal, what should we do next? Okay. If the years are equal, what do you want to compare next? Cool. Let's just do that. Left-hand side dot month less than right-hand side dot month. What should we return? Cool. And I'm showing this equal one. Else, and we actually still have this same logical setup. Else if, okay, this guy greater than what we return. Nice. There's one more thing to handle. And they're equal. So, do this stuff with the day, right? Cool. I'm just going to do this real quick. So that's all the same pattern. Return left-hand side, else if greater than, we return right-hand side, else zero,
defining again how the less than sign actually works for something in this pattern. Implement the protocol or comparable.
You can do the same for the day as well.
Yes. Cool. Why are we doing that?
Any idea why we're doing that? Dum-ba-dum. Well, if we've got no idea, let's at least implement it first. Once we start filtering, is there any guarantee they'll be in that order? Ask me that in a different way. Yeah. If it's pre-filtered, yeah. What? That's not why we're doing it. No, we're doing this so that our program could work for any JSON we got. Filter out by date. So we're going to implement that. We're going to do it the long way because we probably could do this. Maybe I can make these ints just to be sure. I don't know how comparing strings works, but I'm feeling that we can return left-hand side. Else if the other thing we can return right-hand side. So we compared greater than and less than. Now we're checking if they're equal. I'm going to steal all this logic. Really lazy. Check the month. Check the month. Shut up. Check the month. Check the month. Else. Closing. Let's see, friends. Aha. Interesting. Let's see if it works when we're being lazy. Just add a bang to everything. Go away. Aha. How does comparable work? What's these errors? What are these errors with my return statements? Look at the function signature for this less than static function. Crystal, what should be my return type for this function? Cool. On line 48, it's saying I can't accept this as a return type. Why is that? What is it? It's not a bool. Neat. Interesting. Maybe we got to do this in a different way. Well, oh well. You know how I hate this. But if it helps us all see the logic in what's going on, I'll just keep it. Then we'll say in here, do that stuff for day, for day, for day, for day. What about if they're equal? What if the year, the month, and the day? Say that again? You do have bad data. Also, if you're comparing two things that are equal all the way, does it matter what order you put them in? So we could return true or false. Doesn't matter. So now our stocks are comparable. How do you feel about that? What should we do? Let's start comparing them. Great. So if I get some stocks, I can compare them and I can sort out what order they should be in. That's going to be important when we've got an array where we know the month and the year of each stock. But now I need to go set up something, for example, like static func sort stocks by day and year for any set of stocks. Sorry, month and year. Thank you. Any set of stocks. What should this return? We're taking an array of stocks. We want to sort it. Let's make an array of stocks. Okay. I guess let's say stocks.filter less than sign. Will that work? Then we'll return that. See if that works. Nope. What could we do? We could compare those things. See if that works. Nope. There was a bool. Interesting. Should we use filter? No, we're going to sort, friends. Come on. Oh no. Interesting. We should use sorted. That makes more sense. Guys, you can't just go along with anything I tell you. This will sort them day by 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 day. Right? Maybe we'll create a wrapper class. I'll put it down here. Wrapper struct, sorry. Stocks by day and month. I keep doing it, sorry. Month and year. Wow, coding sure is long and hard and annoying. Yes, lert is the thing. Lert. Everyone focus on what I typed and not what I said. Thank you. Is that a reassurance to yourself or to me? Okay. Let stocks be stock. Great. Let's make it a init function for this. Oh my god, I agree. Let's say it's going to take a month, which is a string. It's going to take a year, which is a string. And it's going to take stocks, which is, I don't know, I guess an array of stocks. Then we'll say self.month, month equal to month, self.year is equal to year, self.stocks. Here's the thing. Screw that. Yeah. We already got our comparison all set up. So I'm going to just say that's stocks.filter stocks.sorted. Boom. What does sorted do? Returns it's sorted. Elements are sorted in ascending order. So if our less than sign works, right, ascending means low to high. So when I initialize a stocks by month and year, my goal here is to initialize only those months. So let's say I've got this new function called static let get stocks sorted by month and year. We're going to say that's a function, because I keep doing that, that returns, I don't know, I guess an array of stocks sorted by month and year. What's it called? Does anyone remember? There we go. Stocks by month and year. Here's what that can do. It can use this get stocks. Get stocks equal get stocks. Now it can start filtering those things. Oh, we're almost there. Owie. How can we filter these things? By year and then by month. Cool. How do I do that? Here's the thing, friends. Ultimately, filter, map, reduce, sort, they're just for loops. So we can make a for loop here. Then we could refactor our code. We could do what we want first. So let's say we're going to have, I don't know, sorted stocks. That's going to be an array of stocks by month and year. Starts out empty. Let's say for stock in stocks. Then we'll do some stuff in there. And then we'll return sorted stocks. That's our goal here. What should we do? Look at the clock. We just did that. That made our stocks comparable. How do you want to use that, though? Interesting. We could make that sorted. What should we do next? We could append. It's a good idea. Maybe we don't know how many years are in there. It does make it harder. What's something simple we could do? Could we filter all the stocks to just get the unique years? And filter all the stocks to get the unique months? And then initialize, let's say, let me show you, var all years. It's going to be stocks.filter dot this stuff. Oh boy, how should we filter this? How do you know? Okay. So you don't want to know what the specific years are. Cool. So how do we know the specific years? Ask. Okay, sounds good. Months equal ask months. What do those functions do? Probably got to go do something. Could be you. Could be anyone. Here's what we need to do. We need to go and get the unique years and months. I'm spending a lot of time on this because as you spend more and more time with data, you're going to realize there are patterns. One of those patterns is you probably won't know in advance things like years and months or other values that you're going to use to group things together with. So this is going to become a pattern. We can pick this up in the afternoon if you'd like. You could also push up a suggested solution in the afternoon, and you could read it over. What are your thoughts? Yeah. Okay. Let me check out my schedule. Let's do a silent vote. Albert, before you go. Oh, that's true. We didn't even do today's lesson. Here's today's lesson. Look at the lab. It tells you what to do. Great. That's today's lesson. I think I want to spend more time on this. All right, we'll come back from 2 to 3. Then you can also ask questions about signing up for API keys, but generally signing up for an API key just means adding a parameter to xyz.com / or question mark without a slash or with a slash q. We generally see that as query. It's just a key. It could have also been query. In the same way, you'll see a million different ways that they accept keys. It could be API key, and then you say equals a value, and that's what you're signing up for, is to get that value. It could be called @key, could be called key. Where are you going to find out what that's called? The documentation. That's today's lesson. It's literally. What? I know. Just wanted to make sure we all actually knew where you know how to do that. The documentation. Hooray! Yes.